Hello there, and welcome to what if Padmé stayed in Coruscant during Episode 2. When the Naboo crisis becomes a whisper in the Republic's corridors, Padmé Amidala makes a choice that seems small and private at first. She will not flee. She will not hide. She will remain in Coruscant to fight from where decisions are made. It is the kind of decision that looks brave in a speech and reckless in a rearview mirror. For Padmé, it is simple. She owes her people a voice. She owes herself an answer. The moment she stays, everything tilts. Security increases. The Jedi rotate guardians in and out of her life. Ministers who once brushed past her now listen. Men who had taken her absence for granted must now contend with her presence. Palpatine notices the difference before most do. He has built his long game on pattern and patience. A senator at the center changes the rhythm of his pieces. He tucks the annoyance away and begins to remake his plans around the new reality. This is how the story begins. Not with a blade or an explosion, but with a woman choosing a room to stand in. That room becomes a problem Palpatine did not intend to have. The Senate convenes in its marble-heavy hum. The separatist crisis grows its teeth. Delegations beg for leadership that can move like iron. Fear smells like burning paper in the corridors. In the other telling, a clumsy, well-meaning senator stands and speaks at the wrong time. Jar Jar Binks speaks the words that hand the Chancellor the power he needs. In this timeline, Jar Jar still trips over sentences. He still means well, but Padmé is present. She listens. She hears how easily fear can be turned into law. When Palpatine's aides maneuver the floor toward emergency authority, Padmé stands. Her voice is not a shout. It is a careful, exacting instrument. She puts question on the record. She demands evidence for claims that have been presented as consensus. She asks for audits and for the names behind the requisitions. Her speech is more than rhetoric. It is a surgical strike on the easiest route to authoritarianism: panic. She points out that giving away democracy once, even for safety, invites the hunger of men who wear reason like armor. The motion that, in another universe, becomes a motion to give Palpatine near absolute emergency power never reaches a vote in the same way. Senators listen. Some are moved, some are not. But the momentum fractures. By the time Jar Jar is handed the floor, the chamber is different. The motion is amended. Then stalled. Then collapsed into committees. The Senate chooses oversight over surrender. Palpatine's face does not change in public. He smiles, but inside, his map is scorched around its edges. He had counted on a clean line to authority that he needs. But the line is now blurred. Palpatine responds the way predators do when their prey learns to fight. He adapts. He leans harder on fear, not to force but to manufacture consent. He engineers crises, pushes for rapid deployment, and whispers warnings in corridors at night. But a senator on the floor adds a constant, palatable too many: transparency. Padmé and a coalition of Bail Organa, Mon Mothma and a handful of cautious delegates demand manifests. They call for auditors. They push for public hearings where generals and contractors must testify under oath. Palpatine is not a man without tools. He uses them. He moves money through shell contractors. He offers grand appointments as favors. He plans aides who leak false confidence. He smiles at cameras and cushions fear with promises. Every manipulation has a price when investigators start poking. Senators begin to ask why certain shipments appear in odd places. They wonder why an urgent troop movement has no budgetary trial. Questions ripple into committees and into public feeds. The Jedi watch from their perches with different eyes. They are not politicians, but they notice rancor and the stench of engineered panic. That smell makes them send more eyes and ears into intelligence. Masters who cross-check and shadow men who speak too smoothly. Palpatine grows frustrated. His timetable begins to slip. He had counted on the sedation that emergency power would buy him. He must now play a long game. And the longer the game, the more likely mistakes become. Padmé's decision reshapes Anakin's life in ways that are subtle and seismic. He does not ride off to Naboo for secret, romantic escapes. He is present where the Republic thinks the work is done. On Coruscant, in hallways, near the floor of the Senate. He's part of the security rotations. He hears the debates in the nights. He sees Palpatine's eloquence from the wings. The closeness between Anakin and Padmé turns steady instead of feverish. They talk policy as well as love. He sees her diplomacy and the cost it takes. He learns to place patience at the center of his instincts. He still burns for justice, but he channels it with more grace. Obi-Wan watches and breathes easier. He's not blind to Anakin's hunger for recognition, but he watches it be tempered by meaningful, public responsibility. It's not that Anakin stops wanting greatness. He wants greatness without the desperation that usually carries ruin. Palpatine notices this too. A stable protege is useless to a man who wants crises-born power. So he changes his whispering. He praises. He privileges Anakin with opportunities that look like honor, but are, in truth, observational cages. Visits to classified briefings, consults on military doctrine, discreet flatteries about a destiny that might yet belong to him. The wedge Palpatine tries to drive between Anakin and the Council is thinner here. Anakin knows Padmé's face and ideals. He knows the cost of secrecy. He knows the exposure of leadership. It's harder to believe every whisper when the living faces you love are visible and speaking truth in public. Geonosis still becomes a crucible. Obi-Wan finds the droid foundry. The arena still becomes a theater of horror. But Padmé has been working day and night to build coalitions and practical oversight. The rescue operation is not a clandestine sprint. It is a sanctioned response with witnesses and political cover. When the Jedi and the Republic move to rescue prisoners, Palpatine cannot hide a deployment of an army behind emergency authority. The authorization to mobilize the clones travels through committees, through oversight. Senators put representatives on the tasking boards. Battles still happen, lives are still lost, but the power to turn an army into a cloak for personal ascendancy is not there in the same clean way. The clones are revealed as a logistical wonder in the same breath as a Republic debate about who should command them. That debate shows some of Palpatine's quicker moves. He watches as lines of responsibility are written into the record. Dooku still fights with the arrogance of a man who knows how to attract ambition. Grievous still commands droid Terra, but Palpatine cannot, at that stage, claim full legal control over the military for himself. He tries, but Padmé's committee and certain generals make the argument that concentrated military power without scrutiny leads to tyranny. Palpatine answers with charm and with rhetoric. Where he fails in the law, he flirts with icons. He attempts to frame himself as the man of stability the galaxy needs. The Senate listens uneasily. Public cameras run. The story becomes not only about war, but about who gets to decide the laws of war. The Clone Wars begins. No miracle avoided them, but they look different from the ground up. The Senate installs oversight panels. Military orders pass through the joint bodies that include civilian auditors. Padmé isn't naive. She knows committees can be slow and sometimes useless, but their existence matters. Even a small legal bar slows the centralization Palpatine seeks. The Jedi are not generals, but they allies. They do not command contingents alone. They help coordinate and recommend, and they judge. Anakin's battlefield instincts flourish in this environment. He becomes a general who calculates saving over smashing. He wins respect because he frees civilians, because he prioritizes extraction and evidence gathering. The clones follow because he treats them like people, because he speaks plainly and answers questions after actions. Palpatine adapts by being subtler. He tampers with budgets, siphons money for shell corporations, and manipulates political appointments. He whispers to governors about stability and hints that certain crises should be resolved by executive action. He pushes for temporary authorities to respond faster. Each time he applies pressure, Padmé's network tests the claims. Leaks begin to show up. Anomalies payments, contracts with suspicious companies, contractors with links to the separatists. Mon Mothma and Bail Organa push the right committees. Journalists sniff the cables. The public patience grows thin with secrecy. All of this makes Palpatine desperate to create a crisis so big that any resistance looks like obstruction. This is what dictators always want. A fire so hot that people throw away their freedoms to stop the burn. He plans for that fire. As the war grinds on, the Senate grows tired of war. Families tire, budgets swell, corruption lines becomes public. Padmé holds hearings. She refuses to be the sentimental voice who only mourns. She demands accountability. Her hearings are sharp. She calls witnesses. She forces contractors into the light. She makes the bureaucracy uncomfortable. She marshals evidence of procurement, irregularities, unexplained reroutes, and phantom deliveries. Some senators turn on Palpatine not because they love Padmé or laws, but because their constituents are angry. Others remain loyal because they benefit or because they fear change. The picture is messy, human, and ordinary. No one moment severs everyone. Palpatine responds with two strategies. 1. To double down on manufactured fear. 2. To play the patient, long game of influence. He plants men who make law slow, men who delay questions until they are less damaging. But cracks widen, leaks become stories, public panels demand answers, the press corps begin asking new questions. Palpatine's convenient cloak of friend of the Senate begins to rust. Every schemer needs a decisive blow. Palpatine intends one. He engineers an attack on Coruscant to terrify the public and justify a concentrated executive grant. He plans it as a pivot. Shock, demand and deliver. In a different timeline, that pivot appears unstoppable. Here, Padmé and her coalition have built eyes and ears. They have a trial, they have countermeasures, they have a set of generals and Jedi who are deeply skeptical. When the attack happens, planned and horrifying, Padmé's teams are already in motion. Emergency protocols activate under oversight. Senators are protected. The feed that Palpatine hoped would be his crown moment is two-sided. As explosions roll across screens, so does the record of suspicious contracts and rerouted funds he had previously buried. It becomes harder for Palpatine to be both the savior and the hidden hand. The public sees documents and footage, not just speeches. The question of motive moves from mopeds into the floor of the Senate with witnesses ready to testify. Padmé speaks on live feeds in a way she never has. Not as a diplomat isolated in committee, but as someone with a ledger and names. Her voice cuts into the panic and names patterns. The routes, the payments, the contractors. It is a forcenic argument in the middle of a crisis. The effort is immediate. Senators who would otherwise cover at Palpatine's promises find the courage in evidence. Bail and Mon Mothma marshaled witnesses. A coalition forms around the simple premise: we cannot hand all authority to a man we find linked to the machinery of the war. Palpatine tries to frame them, calls them obstructionists, calls them naive. He attempts to tilt armed units toward loyal generals. He still has resources, and he still has secrecy. But now the leverage is dimmer. He cannot walk confidently to his ladder, because the ladder has its rungs burned away. Days after the attack, the Senate moves into one of its angriest sessions in a generation. The cameras are on. Houses and offices watch. The sound of voices and the smell of incense in the chamber blends with the rawness of the moment. Padmé calls for a no-confidence vote. It is not just a political maneuver. It is a demand that the man of the center of the war be accountable, that he face scrutiny. The vote is ugly and public. Palpatine's allies shout that the Republic cannot function if its leader is removed in a time of war. His opponents shout that the Republic cannot survive if its leader is allowed to bend the law to his will. In the end, the no-confidence motion passes, narrowly, bitterly, with heated debate and tears. Palpatine's term ends not in an Imperial coronation, but in a courtroom of checks. He is forced to step down and face legitimate inquiry. The man who had thought himself untouchable finds his power atrophied in the face of transparent process he misjudged. Palpatine is not a man who simply fades away. He tries influence, tricks, and dark corners. He escapes outright ruin by leaving a trial that confuses investigators. He attempts to hide in finance, in proxies, but the vat of evidence Padmé and her allies assembled is enough to start the legal machinery. The Jedi and Senate coordinate a hunt, not an act of vengeance, but a lawful, procedural unmasking. Yoda and Mace play parts of this. Obi-Wan and Anakin play others. Palpatine's network is exposed piece by piece. Shell corporations, covert payments, lines to separatist front companies. In secret, operatives follow leads. Evidence mounts. When Palpatine finally emerges openly again, he is a man obligated to answer questions instead of a man who commands them. The lack of command is everything. The Senate places him under temporary house arrest, pending investigations. His attempt at becoming a public savior is unstitched. The Sith, who believes himself a god, discovers that the Republic's law can cut deep, if enough people want it to. The Clone Wars do not vanish. Systems still fight. People still die. But the final shape is altered. There is no center emperor crowned on the bones of democracy. There is no clean Order 66. Instead, there are investigations, trials, and a messy political aftermath that makes mass dictatorship far harder. The clones are decommissioned under oversight. The military is decentralized and audited. Some officers who colluded with Palpatine face charges. Others are honored for their restraint when asked to carry out illegal orders. The Jedi are humbled. Their failures are aired. Their reforms debated openly. Anakin grows into a leader entrusted by the military and the Senate. He becomes a bridge between the Jedi and civilian government, often frustrated by the slow pace, but proud of the result. He and Padmé raise a private family in a public world. They do not hide. They teach their children about the cost of freedom and the need to watch power. Dooku retreats. Grievous dismantles. Separatist systems pursue independence in pockets. The galaxy is less centralized. It is also less easy to crown one man. Palpatine's defeat is not a mythic beheading. It is slow and legal. It is the work of committees, the stubbornness of journalists, and the moral courage of a woman who refused to retreat. Padmé does not become a hero because she staged a revolution. She becomes a hero because she treated law as a weapon to be used only to defend freedom. The Jedi remold themselves in the aftermath. They adopt restraint, but not cowardice. They teach stewardship, not domination. They accept political accountability. Some leave the Order to become diplomats. Others stay to rebuild a council that looks less like a cloister and more like a public institution. Anakin's arc in this world is not a tragic fall. It is a story of tempering. He becomes a man who learned how to use power, not to possess, but to protect. He knows the dark because he saw it, but he never lets it dress him. The last image is not an emperor and a throne. It is Padmé in the Senate, older, tired and fierce, but Anakin at her side. A child runs past. They laugh. And behind them are the faces of a republic that is chastened and awake. However, Darth Sidious still becomes a mystery, as no one knows where he is. Dooku sits in the shadows, old, tired and retreated, and Grievous still scheming. Power here is a thing people work at and argue about. It is messy and loud, but it is not crowned on fair. Alright, so that is it for What If Padmé stayed on Coruscant during episode 2. And it finishes off with a pretty open ending, which means that if you guys want, I can make a part 2 to this finishing part, because hey, Darth Sidious still out there, Dooku, old and tired, still out there, Grievous still out there. So Republic looks like it's saved, you know, but danger still exists, even more is out there, you know. So definitely a possibility for part 2 to finish up the story if you guys want to. Anyway, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to subscribe, as we are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, and once we do, me and all my friends are going to do a face reveal on the channel. Join our Discord server, we're trying to expand our community over there, link in the description. Like the video if you enjoyed, and of course, you know, comment down below what you thought. I enjoy reading all you guys' comments, and I love getting suggestions, so any type of comment, you know, what you thought about this video, any suggestions for future what ifs, really anything. And of course, if you guys want to see me finish off this what if with a part 2, remember that we do post a Star Wars what if every Thursday and Sunday, so turn notifications so to be notified about when that happens. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. My name is Mr. Voz, and I hope that you enjoyed this video. Between the pulse of light and shadowed breath, there lies a place where time forgets itself, not bound by what has been, nor what must come, but by the faintest whisper of choice. A single thread pulled and the galaxy bends. Here, destinies twist like sparks in the void. Heroes falter, villains rise. And every path you thought was certain shivers and fractures, revealing the infinite could have beens. Step closer, listen to the silent echoes. Every star you see could burn another way. Every shadow could hide a truth unseen. And in this space, your imagination is the only limit. Welcome to the place where what if reigns. Hey, you didn't watch it? Well, check out the video on the left side of the screen, which is specifically recommended for you, or check out the playlist on the right of the screen, which contains similar videos to this one, made by me, of course. Hey, remember, subscribe.